एवरीवन, वेलकम बैक टू आवर यूट्यूब चैनल। और आज का जो हम टॉपिक कवर करेंगे, हम बुद्धिस्ट ट्रेडिशंस के बारे में बात करेंगे इंडियन पॉलिटिकल थॉट में। यूपीएससी सीएससी सब्सक्रिप्शन अब प्राइस हाइक रिमाइंडर है ये, और प्राइस चेंज होंगे 24 अक्टूबर के बाद। और जो प्राइस डेट एक्सटेंड हुई थी क्योंकि आपने काफ़ी सारे मल्टीपल रिक्वेस्ट करे थे, और आपको सब्सक्रिप्शन मिलेगा जो 10% का डिस्काउंट है। उसके बाद आपको सिंपली ये कोड यूज़ करना है। 1 मंथ में 8,000 से 9,000, 2 मंथ में 20,000 से 22,500, 36,000 से 40,500, 44,000 से 49,500 एंड 64,000 से 72,000 बढ़ जाएगा। An academy aspires providing you with the all India free mock test for the civil servant aspirants and a UPSC CSC Prelims 2021 Paper 1 JS, and it will be conducted on every 10th and 25th of every month. And you will be provided with exciting prizes and scholarship for top 50 rank holders. And it will be conducted on 25th at 10 a.m. sharp. So please enroll for this now. We have Unacademy full-length mains mock paper of JSM 4 ethics for UPSC CSC, and have free live classes, special classes. So it will be conducted on 25th October at 9 a.m. sharp. So you can enroll for this class. We have special batches for UPSC CSE Mains 2020. We have advanced batch course for UPSC CSE Mains 2020 bilingual that are already started from 19th October. We have advanced batch course for UPSC CSE Mains 2020 for Hindi that's actually started from 14th October. And we have advanced batch course for UPSC CSE Mains 2020 in English that is started from 14th October. So you can enroll now for this. We have UPSC CSE complete batch preparation courses that are already started from 19 and it will be starting from 26 October 2020. We have 4 batches. The first batch is in bilingual, in which the medium of instruction is in Hindi English both, and the second one is in Hindi completely. The third one is in English, and the fourth one is a Mission 2022 the 2-year batch course for UPSC CSE. This one subscription has unlimited benefits, like you can learn from your home, you have unlimited access to all courses, top educators of India in one platform, full syllabus coverage, double doubt clearing session, live test series, study material will be provided to you in the form of PDF, and we have answer writing sessions also, and this will be done under a mentor and guidance. This is also one-stop solution for your complete UPSC CSE preparation. We have structured batches with top educators, batches in Hindi English bilingual, late night as well as 2-year batches, 100% syllabus coverage, vast range of optional prelims and main test series with evaluation. We have dedicated doubt clearing classes, we have daily current affair practice, essay and answer writing practice. Along with that, we have performance analysis also, and we'll prepare you for the interview also. So if you subscribe now, you will get 10% extra off. You just simply need to apply this code and you will get 10% off. T20 daily current affair test series are completely free, and daily they have at 7:30, and they have 20 questions for 20 minutes and will consist of 40 marks each. So along with that, we'll also give you a test analysis so that you can know about your highs and lows, and you'll get to know about your percentile also in the class. So if you really like our channel, then please join on YouTube, Telegram and Facebook. So let's start with our topic. As we all know that Buddhism is a very popular tradition in the worldwide, and it has basically developed in India. So we can see since in the ancient time the Buddhism was very dominant in India, and it was one of the more major world religion that was founded in northeastern India, and it was based on the lessons of Siddhartha Gautam, who was also known as the Buddha or the enlightened one. So Buddhism holiness has been observed something within an innate goodness in all human beings that has been lost and can be found through the practice meditation. So Buddhists must have inspired themselves, and they rely on their own efforts. So not only those magnetic leader, if the followers of Buddha began to respect the man, they would also become distracted from their task by impeding the spiritual progress. So it's not just a single monolithic religion, but there were many supporters that have combined the teachings of Buddha on the local religious rites, beliefs and customs. So in this tradition, we can see there are many conflict that has occurred, because the Buddhism is a philosophical system to which there were such additions that can be implanted. So both is a key persona in the religion of Buddhism, and the accounts of his life and his courses and simple rules have also like involved to the renouncing of the worldly pursuits in order to wholly devote oneself to spiritual work, and are believed to have summarized after its departure and are memorized by his followers. So we can see over here that his collection of teachings has been like attributed to him, were initially like transferred to the generations to generation by his oral history, and which were first committed to writing about 400 years after his death. So we can see, if the writing has been done after the 400 years after that, we can see there might be like some changes in the original saying also, that can be like prevalent in the text also. So the supporters we can see of this religion basically identified Buddha as a very enlightened teacher, who not just shared his own insight to help the beings that were not just enlightened, but also we can see that therefore he was just confined to death, rebirth, and all the suffering to attain the nirvana. So Nirvana was basically as described as a supreme state which allows oneself to be free from all the suffering, selfishness, and all or the individual existence. So Nirvana basically like allows the individual to blow out his fires of hatred, greed, delusion, and therefore it is the end of cycle of sorrows in an individual's life. So we can see that Buddhist philosophy has also been described as the investigations and the systems of inquiry, and that was developed among the various Buddhist scholars in the India. And following the death, we can see the Buddha was also like it was later spread to throughout Asia. So Buddhism was basically the main concern that always been for the freedom from his dukkha and the path to the ultimate freedom that consists of the ethical action that we can that is known as the karma, and the meditation and understanding the nature of reality. So we can see that the Indian Buddhists actually sought this understanding as not just from the exposed teaching of the Buddha, but also through his like philosophical analysis, coherent deliberation. Buddhists also and his philosophers in India. And we can see the afterwards that in the East Asia has also like covered the topics of phenomenology, ethics, ontology, epistemology, logic, and the philosophy of time in their analysis of this path. So there was like the basic thought of Buddha was based on the four noble truths. The method of the four noble truths were basically based on the formula of medical diagnosis, and that is if there is a state of illness, the source of the illness, and then the cure of its illness, and then we finally bring about the cure. So it can like also be said over here that the Buddha's first sermon was after his enlightenment, that focused on the four noble truths which were basis of the Buddhism. So the truth number one is the truth of suffering, that is known as the dukkha. The second is the truth of cause of the suffering, that we know as that is known as the samudaya. Then the third is the truth of end suffering, that is nirodha, and then we have the truth of the path that frees us from suffering, that is moksha. So now let's talk about the truth of suffering. So as we know, it has been like interpreted as a life is suffering, because it was observed that many people like don't have idea of Buddhism dogma as soon as they hear this. So, but we can see the Pali word dukh basically denotes to anything that is temporary, conditional, and compounded of the other things. So even like something valuable or the pleasing is dukh, we can see, because it will be end. So it is related to the nature of life, the nature of self, and people want more and more life, and they have like that is the core problem and the egocentric desire. So in this like the good diagnosis we have that people can understand the life is like impermanent, and they are also not permanent. So the Buddha also like communicated that before the people can understand about life and death, they must understand about their own self. So the truth of the cause of suffering, as we know, the second noble truth in the Buddha's teaching is the cause of suffering, and the cause of suffering is the craving or the thirst. So the people like continually they search for something that is outside ourselves to make them happy, but no matter how successful they are, they also like remain satisfied. So we can see that Buddha also like thought that this thirst like cultivates the ignorance of its own self. So people go through life by grabbing one thing or another, or get sense of security about their own selves, but they attach not only to the physical things but also to the ideas and opinions about themselves and the world around them. So the anger, we know, is one of the most causes for the distress to others, and it will also cause suffering within. So people constantly like engage in the action that causes like the anguish, either directly or indirectly. So then they also like become frustrated when the world does not like behave the way they want to, and their lives don't conform to their own expectations. So the both teaching on karma and rebirth are basically narrowly related to the second novel of truth. And the truth that was the end of the suffering, as we know, the Buddha's teaching on the Four Noble Truth was compared to the physician to identify the illness and thus prescribing them with the treatment. So the first truth, as we know, is the what is the illness, and the second truth actually tells us about the causes. The third truth holds out the hope for a cure. So they both taught that though the hardworking practice and the people can put an end to its own craving, the ending the hamster wheel chase after the satisfaction is also like enlightenment, that we know as the buddhi, that means awakened. So enlightened basically exists in the state of the nirvana, and the truth of the path of suffering that frees us from the suffering, and this truth of path basically frees us from the suffering. The fourth noble truth that Buddha also like as a physician recommends the treatment of our illness, and the eightfold path. So this is like dissimilar in many other religion, because the Buddhism there is no particular benefit to just believing in the dogma. Instead we see they emphasize on living in the doctrine and walking the path. Now let's talk about the Buddhist traditions. As we know, Theravada is the one of the oldest branch, and we'll only talk about this branch in the presentation. And it denotes the school of elders, and it is prevalent in the Southeast Asia and Sri Lanka. And because it is known as the doctrine of elders, Buddhism actually traces its origins to the tradition of Buddhism from here, the beginning from original Sangha of the Buddha. So presently we have Theravadan Buddhists that consider their tradition to be the only surviving representative of the earlier schools of thought of Buddhism. And these Buddhists basically admit that they compose the teachings of Buddha and even the canon as a true authoritative dharma. And the Pali was a language that was used in Buddha's language. And why he used Pali? Because Pali was an ordinary language that was used by everyone, and his teachings could be like spread across the common people. So that why he used the Pali as the medium of instruction. So the teachings of Pali, as we know, are basically accepted as very authentic. In every branch of Buddhism and other tradition, they try to recognize other teachings are also very trustworthy. So the Theravadan Buddhism has been like the principal religion in Sri Lanka, the continental Southeast Asia, and is also found in the parts of Southwest China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, as well in Malaysia and Indonesia. So this was growing today. This Buddhism is growing in the Singapore and in the West. So as we know, the Theravadins are basically they try to uphold the ideals of the Buddhist as one of the most worthy and the perfected person who attains his own nirvana through his own efforts. So we can see over here that although like the Theravadin basically are the arhat, they actually takes refuge in the Buddha, and his focus is on the practice of Buddha's Dhamma. And the role of monastic and the layperson is clearly distinguished in the Theravadins. The monks who actually detach themselves from the world are seen that they have become arhants with the lay people. So the modern Theravadin are basically monoistic in the tradition that includes both Pali scholarship as well as the meditative practices. So in the traditional Asian Theravadin culture, Buddhists supports the monastic community of the which they are working towards the iron ship. So we can see that while there were many religious researchers found out that there are many large monasteries of Asian Theravadan countries, meditators, often they continue the tradition of the forest monks from the Buddha's time. The Theravadins basically deeply admire the historical Buddha and are basically perfected, mastered, but they don't pay like homage to the numerous Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, and they are worshipped in the Mahayana. And they currently Theravadan Buddhism has now a very huge number of followers. So all the Buddhist monasteries, missionaries from India took the religion to a to many countries, and but they initially only accomplished a foothold in Sri Lanka. But it was later spread to Burma, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, and parts of Vietnam. And they stimulated the Vijayawada school, that is the separative teaching. But by the 15th century, this form of religion reached almost to its present geographical extent. Now let's come upon the various concepts and practices that include. So Dana basically means a thoughtful or a ceremony giving. Sela means accepting Buddhist teachings and following the practice and refraining from killing, stealing, wrong behavior, use of drugs. On the special days, there are three additional precepts may be added, like restricting the adornment, entertainment, and comfort. The third one is karma, the balance of your sin and your merit, which will determine one future in the present life and the nature of your next life to come. The cosmos, which comprises of billions of worlds grouped into clusters, clusters grouped into galaxies, and which they grouped into the super galaxies. So this is the universe. Also has many levels, and there are four underworlds, and there are 21 heavenly realms. We have paritta, that means the ritual chanting, worship of the leftovers of the Buddhas and the items made by Buddha and other the symbolic relics. We have festivals, the days of full moon and the three other days of the nuclear lunar cycle are celebrated, and there are New Year's festival celebration tied to the agricultural year. We have pilgrimage, that means basically to the Buddhist sites like to Sri Lanka and India. So we know in the Theravadan Buddhism, since the karma has been known as a very impersonal process that is a part of our own structure and universe, there can be no divine release or forgiveness in one own action. So though we can see there are many other forms of Buddhism like Vajrayan that are regard to the recitation of mantra, sound, syllable, group of words in a way of cutting off their previous negative karma. So this concept actually assists with the individual comprehend that everything that happens to him or her is a result of their action, and they must struggle to do good performances. And the central basis of Buddhist beliefs and practices are the three treasures or jewels, the three things the Buddhists look forward for the guidance and take refuge in. And that the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and the Buddha refers to the historical creator of the Buddhism and can be understood as the highest inter spiritual potential that exists within the nature. So Dharma refers to the teaching of Buddha, and the Sangha refers to the community of those individuals who attain the enlightenment and who also help in practicing the Buddhist and attain the same. So by taking like a refuge in the triple jewels that is distinguish a Buddhist from a non-Buddhist, conventionally it has been assertion has been made to the and the commitment to the following of the Buddhist path. So we can see there are other practices in Buddhism that may include the renouncing conventional living, becoming part and supporting of the monastic community, as well as practicing the meditation. So, in the Theravada principle of Buddhism, we can see a person may arise from a sleep of ignorance and then he realizes about its true reality or nature of reality. So, such peoples are called as the Arhants, and they occasionally are Buddhas. And after the numerous lifetimes of religious strivings, the Arhants reach the end of their rebirths. And they no longer revive as human, animal, ghost, or any other being. So in the Mahayana, we can see the Buddha has been like observed as just as a human, and but as the earthly projection of an endless and the ubiquitous beyond the range of reach, beyond the range or the reach of the thought. So now let's talk about the teachings of Buddha. So we can see his Buddhist teachings stressed on the rebirth, karma, and the whereby the beings, where the beings go through a series of lifetime with one of the most several possible forms of the sentient life, with the each running from the conception of rebirth. and it was understood as a continuation of the ever changing process that was determined by the laws, region, karma. So we can see this was like opposed by one of the incarnating from one's own life to the next. So this notion of Buddhism basically like emphasizes on the need for being to be very good, while the current life we can see the order has been like been attract to the good karma in succeeding the lives and the sentient of beings by a desire of pleasure and the averse to the pain and rebirth of the death. So the control of all these desires to bring about in cycle was adapted and the suffering of existence, and they produced the causes and the conditions that was consequent to the rebirth after the death. So even the rebirth basically repeats this process in an uncontrolled cycle where the Buddhists tried to end by appealing the teachings of Buddha and the subsequent Buddhists. So this was a way of eliminating their causes and conditions. So we can see the Buddhist teachings basically emphasize upon the sufferings that were like sentient that every human being goes through in the cases of causes and solution. And this was especially revealed by the Four Noble Truths, which was the first teachings of Buddha and after they attained the Nirvana. So basically, he contained the essence of Buddha's teaching, which maintained the life that ultimately leads to suffering, which turned to be the cause of the desire. So this was normally like expressed as a mistake in clinging to the selfhood, and there was certain sense of existence to consider them to cause happiness and unhappiness. So all this suffering like only ends when the desire ends, so which can only be attained by eliminating all our misunderstanding. Therefore, we can reach to a liberated state of enlightenment, that is the nirvana. So the only way to reach the state by following all these paths and teaching was laid down by Buddha, and the idea emphasized upon the renouncing of one's own self in order to free his ourself from the worldly sorrows. So there was a middle way in which he discovered that the Buddha before his enlightenment was one of the most important supervisory principle of the Buddhist practice, and he can be described as a path of moderation away from the limits of self-indulgence, and can also elucidate on the nirvana state that becomes very clear of dualities and the world that results in emptiness. So he gets relief from the suffering that one develops his calmness, and the worldly objects which can also be accomplished by viewing things and characterized by the three marks of the existence, which are basically suffering, impermanence, and not self. So the transient express that Buddhist concept has everything to the constant change and nothing lasts, and everyone should not be fixed on nature to any object or experience. And the notion asserts that everything is impermanent, attachment to anything is futile, only leads to suffering. Suffering can be equated to misery according to the Buddhist tradition. So this was like often as a result of individual action, not self, and they were third mark to the existence of the approach for gaining the release from the suffering. So we know the phenomenon of here, I and mind were created by the mind and are metaphysical assertion and to bind an individual to suffering. So we need to be very careful about analyzing the continued change of physical, mental, constituents of a person object that one comes to the conclusion. Even the nirvana we can see, which was interpreted to the extension, allows us a being to be liberated from a suffering, the cycle of involuntary rebirths, and even the Buddhist categories. It also denotes the only eradication to our greed, hate, and suggesting the delusion that was present in an individual who achieved nirvana, and this was like one needed to attain the bodhi in order to awakening his own arhants, that those who achieve their awakening. So this was the only way individuals can attain the complete nirvana at the moment of death and the time when the physical body dies. Now let's talk about the devotion and practice. So devotion and practice, as we know, plays a very important role in the Buddhist life, and devotional practices includes offering, bowing, and chanting. So this includes a proper state of meditative absorption by liberating your thoughts. So according to Buddhist teaching, we have meditative states alone are not just the end to liberation. Instead, we have like mental activities that takes place that was based upon our a practice of mindful awareness, that to attain a complete liberation in the centuries preceding to the Buddha, and meditation was a trait for practice of yogis. So later on, we can also see that the Buddha was built upon the yogis concerned and developed in their meditative techniques, and though all was rejected in the theories of liberation. So we can see over here Buddhism had a clear and mindful like awareness that was like observed at the time, and which was not the case of pre-Buddhist yogic practice. So according to the Buddha, we can see there were religious knowledge, and the vision was a result of flawless meditation combined with the perfection of the discipline. So it was very essential for the dogmas in Buddhism that include the finding of immorality, the principles of individual set and the work they do, as well as the display of the love for the other beings. So Buddhism helps like individual to gain insight on from their religions and the culture. They try to identify the power within oneself. So this karma, we can see where the individual learn about the understand and how they are accountable for what they have done have become. So both are individual and members of community. Now let's conclude this presentation. So as we know, Buddhism thought was like entrenched all over the world, and Buddhism was divided into a lot of traditions. However, the most of traditions share the common basic beliefs, but Buddhism spread throughout the Asia, and the teaching becomes very and the teaching came to be interpreted in very different ways. So there were like distinctive practices and that become associated with the different schools of thought that evolved. So the schools found today to reproduce the unique belief practices, they all share the basic teachings of Buddha as drawn by the fundamental section of the Dharma, Dharma nets of learning centers. Then it is established as the Buddhist tradition presented in the three schools, the Theravada, Mahayana and Vajrayana. And although we can see these categories have been a very useful purpose, and they have over generalized the distinction between the traditional and made it obscure between the connection between the all traditions.